Hello everyone. Today's episode is very significant and it's titled Expanding Man's Vision. And I want you to find your most wondrous gaze and simply see that if you were to see where your vision ends, where would that be? Are you a being who only has one dimension as if just the external world, or do you have an ability to observe the external world in a way where you have internal dimensions? You know, there's more to you than meets the eye. In other words, the ability of a being who is acknowledging multidimensionality without recognizing it's multidimensional is a confusing one, but he's always acknowledged it. So you have always acknowledged the fear dynamic by knowing that after you've gone through it, it never needed to be there. Now, when we look at how man can expand his vision, in other words, if I just came up to you in a park and I'm like, hey man, how can you expand man's vision? How can you expand your vision? And you'd be like, well, you know, I'd probably get glasses. And I'd be like, okay, but how else can you expand man's vision? You'd be like, I'd probably go read and learn and, okay, cool. Now after, let's say you've read everything, then how else would you expand man's vision? Well, I'll go do some stuff and I'll go see some new Somnus. So I'll go do some experience. Okay, nice. Now, after you've skydived from everywhere, how else can you expand man's vision? And you wonder, I don't know. And there is where man's vision is really at the edge of wanting to expand. Because when you see that you don't know, you have a sense of empty humility, which is a transparent view of life, which is a much gentle reality into walking. So what that means is, for example, let's say if I'm outside and some horrible scenery is happening in front of me, some very horrible messed up stuff is happening in a very tough neighborhood, let's say. I would see that a part of me would acknowledge it here, but innately I would go into a more comfortable space. So what that means is this existential attention that we have, it has different densities and it's a very multidimensional kind of attention. What that means is that you're absorbing it collectively, but there's many individuations that are progressing on their own as well. And so it's similar to the elegance of the phenomena in that I think it was coral or some form of jellyfish in which it had other living organisms of itself on itself. So it's very, very interesting to check that out. However, you will see that when the I don't know hits, a sense of deep unknown comes. It's as if, damn, it's like you've just stopped playing the game and realized, damn, what room you're in, what time is it? Gosh, should I be home or not? You know, you get these thoughts, but existentially. So it's not image-based because you're feeling a sense of priority beyond image. This is like a sense of inspiration. Call it divine inspiration. When you just feel that your intuition is saying, all right, I have observed this moment, now move this way. Sometimes you need to see that when you trust intuition, it is looking at your individuality through a much more collective intelligence. And it's yours. It is a self-communication. Because if it remains external, your intelligence will be limited. So many beings understand that to keep a person in a power dynamic is just a useless interpretation of how a certain part of the forest should be. You know, it's one of those understandings that there's a significance of life into reintroducing life to the new. So a life is better lived by opening more doors than trying to close more doors, you know, trying to build walls. You must want the people who are in your presence to thrive. That's how you know you're a healthy being. When you walk and you see just people around you have the same sense of serenity within you, because it is not from here, it is a knowing. So what that means is there's one type of a rapport that you have with a person, with another sense of another, which is as if like, oh, hey, look, we're acknowledging the same thing, but I don't know you and you don't know me. But then there's suddenly an acknowledgement that you both know what must be done. Similar to that Armageddon movie where they knew that they had to take the straw and one man had to leave. You know, it's like, it's a moment in life where you and your reflection, acknowledge that you're here. And in that, there is emergence in which you were never the reflection, but you were the vision that was always beyond the mirror. Do you see that? It has an ability to be beyond the mirror, and so that is why it's beyond the mirror, simply, very simply said. But these are, again, in conceptions of thought. So my words are just words, they're just paintings, they're like art, unless you're like, oh, this art looks nice because of this. You need to find how you can apply your reality and your understanding to the reality of others to then be part of a greater reality in which you are aware of a greater reality. You see, it's a sense of responsibility into working more intelligently with other human beings in having better communication. So trust me, improve your communication, your human communication. It's very simple, how you are communicating to life. Become sensitive to it, become more aware of it, and instead of thinking about what's there, clearly be what's there. Simply observe what's there, and it's a now moment. Remember yourself here and now, but also remember yourself to be that ability that can also move beyond here and now. And so you will see space and time are very limited conceptions. In other words, in regards to certain consciousness technologies, a being who is in a projection of space and time is not, there's more to it. It's as if we're still in a cradle. You know, we're in some kind of cradle because space and time, there's more. We can see there's more beyond it because the experiencer is beyond the conception of space and time. So by you seeing that a part of the most real aspects of your dimension and your plane of existence is suddenly hollow, and this is you. This is no one else. As if you have gone to the library to study on your own. The library of life. Yeah. So there is a sense of knowing that finds you, and that is how man's vision expands in its allowance to let the flow of an integrative collective knowing to continue. In other words, let nature do its thing. So within you, you do not need to be stuck in this game where you're constantly trying to interpret the simple through the complex and the complex through the simple. You simply need to observe your immediate spectrum. In other words, for a second, just touch your glasses. All right, feel it. Okay, this is my glasses. Take them off for a second. Look at the sun and be like, do I still want to wear these glasses or not? Consciousness and its movement in regards to form must be as simple as that. The glasses is a metaphor for the elusive reality which you think you're in. It's a point of attention. You are a point of existential attention, as playfully and meaningfully as I can say. So a point of existential attention is not just aware to certain things, but is also the awareness of all things that can be aware, that are certain. So in a sense, you can see that the plant growing in the field will, in a sense, sprout and go to a new dimension, and it will feel like as if I have transcended the horizontal, and I'm a plant. And imagine this one plant grew and the field was still empty. You would see that when man gets rid of another man, he still has one more man left to confront. After you have ran away from everybody in your life, there's one person you cannot run away from, and that is yourself, and that is the mirror. And it is very important to forgive yourself with the compassion of the gentleness of perhaps the Dalai Lama's hand, into showing you that it is okay, dear point of existential attention, that you had gone through these fluctuations of form, but now be aware to the present moment. Now be aware to how you're communicating with life, and simply see that you are allowing a mixture of your past and your senses of future to bother you now. In other words, do not call yourself blind when there are those standing among you that are saying you can see. You find yourself very comfortably when you're playful. And expanding man's vision simply comes when you are, in a sense, not seeking to expand only one man's vision. You begin thinking through a greater mind. So you at first think, okay, I'm this individual human being, I have this one brain in my head, and so this is what I see and this is what I do, and so I'm just this shape, moving shape. Now, when you think about, okay, what is the mind of this individual, you see it doesn't end. The way the nature of observance works in regards to reality is that it continues on. So there's an aspect of your concentration, of your focus, of your view on life that will, in a sense, enhance your ability. And you must find this view. So this is how playfully Mr. Within would say, you must reveal your own treasure. It is within you. You must go through experiences, break through these layers of identities which you think are you and are incapable, and suddenly see that you are beyond the idea. You are the greatness that brought compassion, because compassion never needed to be separated. Because this world did not need to be cut up by an awareness that never could be cut up. And so there is a right always in your wrong and a wrong in your right. And as you see these vast, in a sense, opening between the mountain, but a very narrow and a very long vertical opening in the mountain, you will see that your two wings, which are your ability to confront the good, and which is your ability to confront the bad, your ability to confront stillness, the ability for you to confront noise, the ability for you to confront silence, and the ability for you to confront movement. And any combination of these will be your wings as you are going through that confident dive, very angelically between this mountain of ideology and form. And as you cross and get out of that mountain, you saw that a being that goes through a hard experiences and survives realizes there is no death when I have continued so far. And death, I mean, I'm not saying there's not physical death. I mean, the nature of physical reality is very temporal, of course. But when I say death, I mean how man is approaching his ideology of his fading. And it is in a sense true, it is a fading in one aspect of view, but in another aspect of view, it is an entrance into your greater knowing. And if you could, for a second, just see yourself in the eyes of a giant, or not a giant, but let's say actually in your society, the most able being. In other words, you had the peak of existential understanding. You were such graceful to life. Life was with you, and so was every man. Because in your realm, there was such peace. And so let's say when you were at that position, when you suddenly go into, let's say, a new society, into a new world where let's say, for example, people are still disturbed, those who emanate from the unknown are those who bring in the certainty into the manifestation of form, in any form of your consideration. So if there is a presence within you, that is you, that finds, that suddenly looks at society as an able being and suddenly sees, okay, there are many realities. So in other words, no one's voting for the same president. No one's living in the same world because everyone has different views. And it's as if on a subtler level, man's mind is very messed up. But on a very more solidified level, we're like, we're good, we got this, we're all good, right? So we want to create a better bridge from man's solid sense of being in regards to a self-awareness relationship with his more liquid sense of being. And his gas state of being is unspeakable. So consciousness needs to have time to itself. You need to, as a physical being, sometimes just sit down and be. Just be. Throughout your day, if you just leave some time and you just understand the clarity of the meditator's wisdom and just see that why stillness or just sitting down and just being without thinking something immediately is so profound, you just become very calm. You are a sense of your own clarity, and it's a very comfortable breeze. Because guys, it is your existential responsibility, once you have an awareness to a sense of space and time, to become the most, in a sense, naturally expressive aspect of that knowledge. So in other words, I'm going to do a lot of series on knowledge and what knowledge is, but before I get into knowledge, ideology needs to be looked at on a personal level. And so you need to really look at that to then see why vision has an importance. It's very interesting because when I look at how you expand man's vision, I see that it is intolerance that has lacked vision. It is the lack of seeing the different unified through your being that is, in a sense, a delay for man's vision. However, I see that the nature of this reality is very expansive and very infinite. So I see that society, when you go and resonate with a lot of cultural, social ideas, and you in a sense are not very observant and mindful of your nature of being, you are looking from to a different reality. People in the city have a different reality than people outside of it. Because in the city, your conditions are different. Your experience of space and time is changing all the time. And so your awareness to it is in a sense even throwing out your multidimensionality in a sense. But there's always more to the unknown. Expand man's vision by realizing that the only person which it is very fruitful to immediately try to inspire is yourself. You need to begin seeing that it is important for you to pay attention to your life, and perhaps no one had said it till now, but Mr. Within is going to say it. You need to begin taking care of your life and being a bit serious about it, because it's getting exciting. Your life's going to get more exciting regardless of where you are, what age you are. Regardless, the moment that you are aware, your life is going to become exciting because you begin taking off the Ray-Bans and looking at the sun and then putting your Ray-Bans on with that certainty of reality. So that it's very important for man to expand his vision by being his most authentic expression, by being his most clearest lens and most transparent idea. Because in being that, he is not anything that can be shaped, that can be temporal, but he's the unshaped awareness that is present through the world of worlds that ends in itself. Expanding man's vision always begins with the self. Much blessings and namaste.